last message that really impacted me, and I want to read a quote from it. You were referencing the throne and how important that vision is,
Yeah.
and that view is. You said this: we cannot think rightly until we recognize there is an occupied throne in heaven, and that the God of the Bible rules from that.
Yeah.
And I wrote in cap letters right after that, remember the throne.
Yeah.
Now, we remember the cross at communion. There's a lot of things about Christendom that we want to remember, but I have not been directed to the throne before as something that I, as a believer that walks with the Lord, needs to be comprehend, and it has an impact on my daily life. Could you expand on that just a little
Yeah,
bit?
no, absolutely. And I think some of that comes back to what you see with the four living creatures. And remember, they're described as having eyes all around. And again, we can't necessarily nail down, exactly what the living creatures are. It seems that they're angelic beings, probably representative of all creation. But then the eyes, I think, really signify their understanding of who God is. And so then as we look at them as an example, we have to understand that if we hope to walk through this life in a way that brings honor and glory to God, we have to have the understanding and realization of who God is and who Jesus is, which is why I pointed to several times as we walk through that series that Jesus, when he introduces himself, doesn't introduce himself as who he was.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, I'm the peasant carpenter who walked among you. He doesn't say, I was the itinerant preacher, who did miracles.
Yeah.
He refers to himself in his glory now. And it is so crucial for us to be able to look forward to that glory and to see him in our understanding as he is now. To remember that there is a throne in heaven. It's not an empty throne.
Right.
It's an occupied throne. And that God rules from it. Which means that as I live my life now, I live it in light of the cross. I live it because I have received salvation. But I look forward then to seeing God on his throne and in his glory. And when I see that, it puts my kind of desires and bents in the right perspective.
Right.
And that's where we said we can't think rightly about much. And I wish I could remember who said that. I jotted that down. I was like, oh, that's really good. And because it was an amazing quote that guy had, that there is, we can't think rightly about much. I can't think rightly about my relationships unless I remember that there's an occupied throne in heaven and the God of the Bible rules from it. Because if I don't remember that, then my relationships are about me.
That's right.
And I have selfish, really bad relationships. If I don't remember that there's an occupied throne in heaven, then I am going to be more tempted by things like lust. I'm going to be tempted by anger. I'm going to be tempted by gossip. I'm going to be tempted by apathy. All of those things that kind of want to well up within me. It's easier to set those aside when I remember that there's an occupied throne in heaven, and that I'm not the one who's sitting on that throne, but that the God of the universe is. And so that's why, I think it is so important for us to remember the throne.
We have a holy and righteous God seated there.
Yeah, and again, 45 times in the book of Revelation the throne is mentioned. 11 times in Revelation 4. It is the theme. It's what we're pointed to, and so I wanted to take the time and point us to it as well.
It was awesome. To a worship leader, Revelation 4 is just a great chapter about those 4 and 20 elders and the creatures, and all of them bowing down and worship God. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord. So my heart was stirred when you said that, but that also brought me to the recognition and the realization that the one we worship is the one that is seated on the throne.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.